wrote in and said, "Hi Shannon and Dr. Doreen, thank you for sharing the video with the incredible young man, and we'll be looking up the 20th Gala too, because you mentioned that there were other videos available as well." And they said also for the tissue alert, because we tell everybody it's a 5-hanky affair watching that video. It's
yes,
just,
it is.
You know, just if you need a good cry, that's the thing to watch, my friends, because it's the happy cry. Okay, so then she goes on to say, "We have a one-on-one for my 14-year-old. Any ideas on how we can use this resource for socialization goals? He is high functioning, and thanks so much."
What a large question.
Right?
And, you know, I'll do my best to answer it, but we always, as we always like to remind everyone on the show as well, you know, many of the answers are not specific to your child. We can't really go into too much detail because I don't have the opportunity to know every individual that you write about.
Thank you for saying that. I forgot to say
No
that this
problem.
morning. There's never the possibility of somebody giving
Right.
individual specific advice in this format.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't be, it's not conducive to that, and it wouldn't be fair to the individuals.
Absolutely. So please, you know, kind of take it with a grain of salt, I guess, and just see if it applies. And from what I can tell, you have a one-to-one. That's wonderful. It's a very, very huge question in terms of how do we use this resource for socialization goals. That's a tough one to answer because I don't really know where your 14-year-old is on the spectrum or what skills he or she has currently. I guess I'll try to keep it short, but give an overview or some direction for you. This is specifically the reason that I developed skills. So I would highly recommend that you take advantage of skills. Skills will give you numerous content or lesson plans that have to do with increasing social skills. And there's a whole section called social skills. That's one of the 8 domains that we cover. And when you go in there, it'll show you many different things like social conversation or just, I don't know, how to interact with others appropriately, body gestures and body movements that are conducive to social behavior, how to maintain a conversation with someone, how to listen to others, how to take turns in social. There's a million different things, how to have different social behavior based on the context, the contextual cues, who you're talking to, where you are, and so on. So I would really recommend that you look there because those various lessons will give you an idea or will give your one-to-one ideas of things to work on. Now, having said that, there's also kind of a different thing you have to follow, which is we generally do some activity with our individual one-on-one, but then it's very important to generalize that to the public. So if you have the one-on-one, and let's say the one-on-one is practicing the social conversation lessons, which on its own are probably about 20 different sub-lessons in there. And if the one-on-one is working on those types of things, like for instance, how to repair a conversation, how to initiate a conversation, that's one's very common, so let's talk about that one. You do those various techniques, and once the child has kind of mastered that, then you want to make sure that you're also doing those techniques with other 14-year-olds or other individuals who are peers or typically developing individuals who would then allow your child to practice his skills. So that is a very, very important aspect of social behavior. Now, the other thing I want to say is that all of our kids have strengths, and it's very important to identify those strengths. When it comes to social behavior, it is incredibly important. So most of the time we tend to socialize with people people who make us feel intrinsically reinforced, I suppose is the way to put it. So for instance, you're not going to hang out with people who make fun of you or don't appreciate your talents. So you will need to identify a social group for him. A lot of times for our kids, that might be gamers who are very good at gaming. If your child is very good, 14-year-old, I think, boy,
Yes.
Yes. So, he might be very good on computers. So you might want to find a group of kids who are into gaming. That is a way that this generation has started to socialize, is that they basically will communicate through things like online with each other first, and then they gradually establish relationships that way and get to know each other.
Yeah, they play a game together online, and
Exactly.
they're talking to each other while they're playing the game. I mean,
Exactly.
that is for all kids right now, for boys, I should say, but for some girls as well, that is the base of socialization in that window. It's
It
crazy.
absolutely is. And even when you look at girls, the form of social communication has much more become text
Yeah.
than verbal. And it's important to stay with, like, allow that to happen, because it is what's in our environment, and it's what's in our kids' environments. So whether it's computers or music or art or dance or whatever it is that you feel your son is good at or has a propensity to develop, then I would really encourage that, because the more we have a skill that we feel comfortable with, that we excel in, the more we have a sense of self-esteem. And self-esteem is very important to social behavior. So, and we actually even have lessons on how to increase self-esteem, but that is a very important thing as well if you want to develop social skills.
I can tell you that one of the big shifts for us at school was when we had skills on board, and I got ready to go to the IEP, and I thought about it, and I thought, well, what things are not in GEM's IEP that I would really like to see? Mm-hmm. And they were all social goals. So I went into skills and said, well, if I were going to do 3 lessons, what would they be? And I had skills put out the IEP language for me. I went to an IEP with that, and they said, oh, you want these social goals. They wanted to rewrite the goals to what they wanted, and you will find that schools will want to do that. But the thing about it is, because I came in with well-written IEP goals that were specific to his social thing, they wrote them into his IEP, and that's when your aide will have to do it, and they'll figure out how to implement it. And
That's
you
right.
can do that as well. I think one of the hard things for parents is when you go into skills knowing where to look. You might know exactly what the skill is that you want, but you don't know what the name of it is in skills.
Right.
They have some of the most amazing people in the world working in skills now. You can call them and say, here's the lesson I want. What is it called?
Right.
They'll be able to tell you that, and it will be so quick. And the cost of it will be a millifraction of what it would cost you to get an educational consultant.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And on that subject, thanks for saying that. That's true. We do have a lot of great people working in skills, but also, I mean, it has a search function, which is intelligent.
Yes.
So you can actually put words in, and
Yeah.
it'll pull up all the lessons that have to do with those particular
Absolutely.
things. But you need something like that. You can't just, assume that having the child around other peers with a one-on-one is going to be enough. And I don't know if this is an aide or if it's an in-home therapist, but whoever it is, they will find a heaven of lessons in skills, and they'll know how to proceed from there.
Absolutely. It's amazing. And then write back to us about what you ended up doing and
Yes.
how it goes, okay? And somebody said, so thankful for Dr. Doreen to come and answer questions on her one day in Los Angeles,
Thank
because
you.
last week you were only here for
Yeah,
one
and
day.
this week I'm leaving again tomorrow for Washington, and next
did
week I'll be leaving on Thursday for Australia. So
Yes.
I'm always here on Wednesdays. I try to be, but it's always something.
It's thrilling that you do. We had a question from a viewer that has written into us before. She's a young woman on the spectrum who has just set out on her very first apartment, which is very exciting to her. She wrote in and said, there is a man in my apartment complex who I suspect is on the spectrum. He has himself convinced, all in capital letters, I am his girlfriend, and is making me feel like the cat in Pepe Le Pew cartoons. How do I get him to realize that I do not want a relationship with him? And she had written to me separately as well, saying that she has verbally said, I am not your girlfriend, and that doesn't seem to be sinking in. So, and I love how descriptive, you all remember the Pepe Le Pew cartoons with the skunk who was constantly, actually I think he was a cat and kissing a skunk, and she didn't want anything to do with him. But in any case, I would love your advice on this, Dr. Granpeesheh.
Well, I mean, this is a tough situation, but I think you'll have to continue to be very upfront and continue to repeat the message. This is not necessarily going to be something that's limited to an individual on the spectrum. I think a lot of people like to ignore that message of I'm not interested, but I mean, the basic things that you can do obviously are explain to him that you are not interested, that you are. I think you should probably even go into explaining that it makes you uncomfortable. And if you need to go further, you can explain exactly why it makes you uncomfortable. You could say, everybody has space around them and you come into my space, or I worry that every time I come back home, you're going to be there and I want my privacy. Or, kind of be a little bit more descriptive about exactly what it is. And remember that he may not understand what it means when you say, I'm not your girlfriend. And you may, if you have the time, want to explain to him that, I like you as a person, but I don't want to spend time with you every day and so on. And then I would say, if it's really making you very uncomfortable, then you should probably try to find his relatives or family and maybe have a conversation with them, because obviously they know him much better and are able to perhaps help explain things to him better.
Yeah. It's a tough thing. I mean, this is tough for all young women.
It is very tough.
And it's tough, I think, for all young men.
It's incredibly tough for men.
Yeah, and it doesn't just have to do with autism, but then when you throw autism into the mix, it makes it more complicated.
It does, because our young men don't often read social cues very well. It is a program that we have because we've had a few of our young men sort of be referred to as stalkers, and they're not really trying to be stalkers. Obviously, they have an interest. They find you to be reinforcing, and they have the, keep in mind, of course, their biggest deficit is the ability to perspective take. And so he has a problem seeing your perspective.
Yeah.
So he cannot understand that you are uncomfortable in his presence. And it isn't necessarily your job to teach that to him, but it is certainly beneficial to him, and I would think his family might want to help him understand that a little bit better.
Yeah, I think this is such a prevalent thing. It was a storyline in the last season of Parenthood with Max Burkholder, that there was a girl that he really wanted to date. And when he asked his dad, how do you get somebody to like you? And his dad said something like, well, make sure that you're perseverant, that you tell them that you like them and let them know. And of course, he took that to too far of an extreme, to the point where the girl said, you can't be around me at all anymore.
Yeah.
And watching the family deal with that, it's devastating for everybody. It was devastating for the girl. She said, I like him. I'd like to be friends with him, but I now can't be because he didn't listen when I said don't do that. So being as clear as possible, but I think first and foremost, as Dr. Granpeesheh was saying, you get to have your boundaries.
Yes.
Just because he doesn't understand doesn't mean that you have to be made uncomfortable.
Yes. And that's really, really important, because if you go back and forth because you feel bad for him, then he'll get a very confusing message. So don't feel bad. This is absolutely your right to have your own space and your own privacy, and to choose the people who are in your life. And you need to be very clear on that, because if you waver a little bit, if you feel sad for him or guilty or whatever, he'll be confused. So please be very strict about your boundaries and make sure he understands.
Absolutely. As well. We had a question that came in this morning. Hello, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. As always, love your show and all your advices. We have a 10-year-old with ASD, never had early intervention, who struggles with irritability and mood swings daily. That sounds like me. I don't mean to make light at all. He has been on different medications, but none seem to work. We tend to send him to a quiet area to relax and calm down before the storm, and sometimes it works, while many times we are too late. My question is, how long do we need to continue sending him to a quiet area to calm his anxiety? He's getting older. We do know that changes in routines are a trigger, but sometimes we don't know why his mood changes. We have a routine schedule with PECs, with rewards. He is verbal for scheduling, but he struggles with those changes too when we need to go to the next PEC. How long do we have to keep him in routines to avoid tantrums and meltdowns, since life does change, and we like for him to understand that? Is this our normal with him? We are so stressed. We feel we're walking backwards in age. Please, some advice. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'm thrilled that you wrote in, and I'm thrilled that you were so honest about what's going on, and I'm thrilled that we have someone of Dr. Granpeesheh's knowledge and caliber to help you so that you don't feel like you're walking backwards.
Right. And I cannot stress how important it is that you get professional help now. And by that I mean you need a behavior analyst who can help with a program. The fact that you didn't have early intervention doesn't matter. You are still you need to get ABA right now. A lot of what you're talking about is stuff that is dealt with in ABA. The fact that he has mood swings and you can't really identify what's causing the mood swing basically means that you don't know what the function of his behavior is. You don't know why he's upset. ABA figures out exactly why he is upset, what is he trying to communicate with his mood swings and irritability, and how you can fix it. So a behavior analyst would do what's called a functional assessment and would identify exactly under which circumstance which behavior means what. So when he does this, it means he wants this. When he does that, it means he wants that. And then it will help us teach him better ways to ask for those things rather than having a tantrum or showing irritability. Now, as an example, what you're trying to do, because you think some of why he gets upset is because his routine is messed up. And that's entirely possible. A lot of children don't like their routine to be changed, but a deeper reason for that is because they don't know what else is coming, so they lose control of their schedule and their life, and it's scary. It increases anxiety. Imagine if you didn't know from minute to minute what's going to happen next. Like, I could be in the middle of doing something and someone would come and say, come on, it's time to go do something else. That's very anxiety provoking. So it is very important to have a visual schedule that is not a PECS schedule. A PECS, Picture Exchange Communication System, is a communication system. What you're talking about is a visual schedule. A visual schedule will have the activities of the day listed. Now, it will help him perhaps if he can actually put those activities in an order, and you can talk to him and say, first we will do this, then we will do this, so that it's not just a visual thing that's on the wall. I'm amazed sometimes when I train like day programs or schools and I go out there and I see that there is a visual schedule, but no one even points it out to the child. So it's more there for the teacher or the aide than it is for the child, whereas really the purpose of that is to let the individual, the child, know what's coming next, and also to know the duration of time that you're going to be engaged in each activity. So sometimes it helps to have a timer for each activity so that the child knows when it's over and when they're going to transition to the next thing. Now, having said that, I don't even know if transitioning from one activity to the next is one of his issues. You would need an FBA. You need to do a functional assessment in order to identify if that is something helpful to him. That would be an antecedent modification where you're changing something in the environment to help him stay calm. Now, it sounds like he does sometimes. You're able to catch it. You can tell that he's about to get upset. Well, in behavior analysis, we would teach him to identify that himself and to actually tell you, I need a break, or to at least start to do something that calms himself or soothes himself, like breathing exercises, or just ask for time out or something. And also, if he needs to calm down, if that is something that helps him, perhaps you want to give him some of those noise canceling headphones, excuse me, because that might help him to actually shut out irritation or noise from the environment.
Yes. You want to take a minute?
Oh, I have like a million other things to say still. So, it's very, very important to identify kind of the reason for the mood swing, for the irritability, to give our children ways out to reduce the frequency or the intensity of demands that are placed on them, but also to push them. So you don't want to just take everything away and say, hey, yes, sure, you can have, free time all day long. Obviously, we all need to be productive and do something with our lives, but it is important to identify how to make that fair. And routines do help. There's a million other things that can be done to teach him how to calm himself, how to not get angry. Most of the time, not all, most of the time, all of the time, we get angry, we get upset because our point isn't coming across, because people don't understand what we want or what we want to avoid. And that's really what's happening. If there was a better way for him to be able to express what he wants and what he wants to avoid, that would be the PECS program if he was nonverbal. But you mentioned that he's also verbal. So it makes me think that you could use the PECS program to teach him to communicate, but you should also have a behavior analyst who is using the PECS program to get him to verbalize and to actually speak. So, if he's a verbal individual, the fact that you didn't do early intervention, put that behind you, and please get into behavioral intervention now, because there's a million things that you can do to help structure his life better.
And I just want to say, I don't know what your financial circumstances are, and I don't know what the rest of I don't even know what country you're in, from what you've written into us. But there are so many different ways that you can get help and support that are ABA now. And if you need to write to me and we can figure out together what it is you need, it's very possible that you have insurance that would cover this.
Yes, if you're in the States, that's absolutely true. We have, 40 states now?
Yeah, it's very possible and if that isn't, there are other avenues that you can go down to. And trust me, if financial things are a concern, there have been other people that have been able to figure that out, and I can help to point you in some different directions,
right? And we have Medicaid coverage now,
exactly.
Course. And if you're not in the States, then you have access to things like IBT and skills. Exactly. I mean, that's why we built those websites, is to be able to help people.
But what I want to describe to you right now is that you're trying so hard, and you're doing things, and you're like, but I feel like we're going backwards. And I always remember, somebody telling me about the flies that you find on your windowsill by the screen, because those flies will go like this against a screen until they die. Yes. They never turn around and go, look, there's a whole room that I could fly around in. And I'm telling you that right now you're the fly against the screen. You're so close. You're so close. You're here and you're getting access to good information, but I need for you to turn around and see that there's a whole bunch of stuff, because right now, with the interventions that you're doing, you're in the neighborhood, but you're not getting it done right. So it's as though you've taken your car, I'm queen of the bad metaphor, it's as though you've taken your car to the gas station and said, I need to gas it up, and you take and put the gas into the front seat and go, I don't understand why it's not working.
Right.
You're there, but we just have to get you on the right track, and that is going to take some professional help. You owe it to yourself and to the rest of your life and to this beautiful 10-year-old's life. You've got to bump it up enough to get somebody in to get it on board, and then you can be maintaining it maybe yourself, but you need to get that help and support, or you're going to keep feeling like things are going backwards.
Absolutely, very well said. I love those metaphors, by the way. I'm going to use them.
My bad metaphors.
Especially the fly one.
Yeah.
But what and sometimes as parents, we're so overwhelmed as it is. We're so tired, and it's just so much to endure that we think, well, I just can't deal with it anymore. Yeah. But here's what it is. You actually are dealing with it, because every time he tantrums or he gets upset, it's a drain of energy on you, and you're the one that has to take care of things. And he's 10 and getting older, and it becomes a little bit more worrisome for you. And it really, as you said, it just doesn't feel good. Stop spending your energy on actually intervening. Use your time and your energy to get help for someone else to intervene. So instead of trying to deal with the behavior right now, try to deal with getting funding for an intensive or comprehensive ABA program so that you can get professionals in here to help him. This is why that's why I always say, like, as Hillary Clinton says, it takes a village. Yeah. It truly, with ABA, with these types of issues with autism, you need support. You need 4 or 5 people who are trained and involved and ready to be there and take care of issues. because this is not something for one parent to take care of alone.
Yeah, you need it and you deserve it.
Absolutely.
And your kid deserves it. That is going to take some work on your part, but you know what we always say here on the show, we'll hold your hand, we're in this together. You want to write to me or call me, you can write to me at s.penrod@autism-live.com. Let's turn this around and get you flying around the room instead of banging your head against the screen. What say?